All right, great. Let's get going.
All right.
Okay. First off, thank you everybody for making the time to attend. We promise to share a ton of great information and insights. Today, we're joined by Neal Thurman, Director of the Coalition for Better Ads. My name is Michael Yeon. I'm the Head of Marketing here at Admiral. Today, Neal's going to be sharing a ton of new data on the Adblock topic from a worldwide study the Coalition just recently completed. He's also going to be introducing the Better Ad certification program, discussing why and how it can be leveraged to build customer trust between publisher and visitors, and obviously to amplify your Adblock revenue recovery efforts. Admiral is going to be introducing a brand new feature we're super excited about that integrates the Better Ad certification program directly into our platform. If you have any questions, please feel free to submit them via chat, and we'll address them towards the end of the webinar. But without further delay, here's Neal.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael, and thank you to the entire Admiral team for having me today. This is a topic that is obviously very very near and dear to our hearts at the CBA, and it has been a long journey to do this research over the last year and a half to really understand where customers are with digital advertising, what's causing them to use an ad blocker, and what we can do about it as a digital advertising community to increase their trust in the people that are really trying to do things the right way. Before we get started, anytime I do anything under the banner of the Coalition for Better Ads, I know I have lots of people from across the industry here. Want to just let everybody know we've certainly looked at the agenda and the content of today's presentation, and it has been okayed by people from an antitrust standpoint. If anybody has any concerns that we are veering into territory that could be problematic in that respect, please put your hand up and let me know. We can put a pin in whatever that topic happens to be and come back to it, via a follow-up email or something like that as appropriate. I don't think we're going to head into any of that territory, but needs to be said. So what are we going to cover today? First, I will give you a very brief history of how we got here, both as the CBA and as an industry. What the CBA does, what do we do? And I'll try and cover both of those pretty quickly so we can get to the meat of the program, which is really all around the kind of rebaselining that we have done of our understanding of consumer attitudes towards ad blocking, and towards how they approach the advertising based ecosystem that they encounter, and why some of them choose ad blockers, why some of them don't, how flexible are they on that, and what we can do about it. And then finally, Michael alluded to the Better Ads Experience Program, SEAL, for publishers, why we've started focusing on that as a signal to consumers and to the industry of trust, and how you guys can integrate it. And then we'll transition into how we've partnered with Admiral and all the great work that we're trying to do together on behalf of the industry. So a brief history. I'm sure this is familiar to everybody in the publishing world. Kind of what happened, what was going on in the world that caused the Coalition for Better Ads to come into existence. Ad blockers started to be a thing in the mid-aughts, and consumers kind of realized it and used it as, in my mind, as a tool to kind of lodge their concern with how digital advertising was evolving over time. And ad blockers got more popular. Publishers and the industry in general, as you might imagine, said that's not great. We need to do something about that because it leads to economic harm to the publishers, which has upstream effects to marketers, intermediaries, and everybody else involved in the supply chain. So the trade bodies that represent the industry, the IAB, the 4As and the ANA, the WFA globally, a lot of the international affiliates of the IAB got together and decided that they needed a cross supply chain organization to help understand what consumers felt about digital advertising and how the industry should react to that in a way that was positive and collaborative, and got closer to a mutually agreeable social contract between consumers and the industry. So just a little example sampling of the companies that came together to form the CBA and have been integral in its operation over time. So the in terms of what that led to, what were the practical outcomes of the coalition. So we wanted to go to people, right? Go to consumers and understand what they thought about ad experiences. Um, the most comprehensive research that we're aware of in the industry around consumer opinion on the topic. Um, we have done 4 major studies of different ad environments over 7 years: desktop web, mobile web, short form video, and mobile apps being the 4 surfaces or ad environments that we've covered. We want to be, this is a global standard, and so we wanted to make sure that our research is representative of the global population. So we've included 18 countries representing about 70% of global ad spend. And those 18 countries, we've had about 200,000, or probably a little bit more than 200,000 by now, people participate in those research projects. So it truly is an effort to understand digital economies of all shapes and sizes and make sure that people kind of are aligned on how they're thinking about this. And this is what it leads to. And I'm not going to brief um, all of these slides, but just to give you an example for desktop web, which was the first thing that we created a standard around, we went to all those countries. We showed people um, ad experiences of a variety of types that you can see there on the right, and ask them their opinion of them. Which ones were, no, in a vacuum, everybody will say I'd rather not have advertising than have advertising, but which ones met their expectations when it came to a reasonable trade-off between ads and the content and experiences that advertising funding helps drive, and which ones were driving them, frankly, to ad blocking behavior. And the ones that you see down there in the bottom right with the red rectangle around them were the ones that formed the basis of our standard. And we went and did that across mobile web, short form video, and mobile apps. And then again, I'm not going to brief all this, but just to give you an idea, when we built our actual standards, here are, kind of the visuals around what was included. So pop-ups, pre-stitials with a countdown, autoplay with video ads with the sound defaulted to on, and large sticky ads that intruded on people's experience. So again, kind of same for the other 3 environments. And our takeaways overall were that these experiences were global. People generally tended to agree. And then second, that the common factors in the things that people really, really disliked were excessive intrusion in their digital journey and annoyance in terms of trying to get to the content that they wanted to get to. Very fortunate that a lot of organizations have kind of taken up our standards and inserted them into their processes. We just create standards. We don't do anything with them beyond that other than promote them to organizations like the browser companies, some of the other trade bodies, some individual companies, et cetera. But we are appreciative of the partnership of all of those folks in helping get the word out. So why a study around ad blocker behavior again? We had done research that kind of preceded coming up with the CBA, kind of what was going on, what drove the direction of the CBA to start. And there were a few hypotheses that kind of drove us to want to rebaseline that. One, there was kind of a new wave of experiences and tactics that we felt like were coming into the marketplace that we hadn't done research on. And so we wanted to make sure we were getting up to date, especially with desktop and mobile web, because it had been a number of years. And there were a number of experiences that, we didn't have anything to say about. So we wanted to make sure we were checking back in with consumers and understanding if there were new experiences coming into the marketplace that were problematic for consumers. We wanted to understand if the fact that we have covered some channels but not others was causing consumers to get frustrated in one place where we didn't have a standard, and you know, express that in a channel that we do have a standard. We wanted to understand, um, the extent to which the aggregation of ad experiences, ad density, kind of the interplay of effects was important over and above the individual ad experiences that we'd covered previously. You know, certainly data, all things data, has become a much bigger deal in the consumer conversation than it was 7 or 8 years ago when we started the CBA. And then finally, and this I think is a great conversation to be having with the whole industry, and very apropos of the conversation with Admiral and their position in the marketplace, is I think the industry has done a lot of great things, individual companies, trade bodies, around kind of limiting their use of certain ad experiences that consumers have said they're not interested in, but there hasn't been a great deal of communication on that front, meaning consumers just don't know what's happening. So we haven't taken credit for the good work that I think we are already doing in a lot of cases. So back to the research here, and to some of the results that we found. So what we found was that annoying and interruptive is still the dominant reason that people download and use ad blockers. That comes in a few different formats. I'm not going to brief all of them out to you, but whether it be retargeting, whether it be the specific ad experience, whether it be ad density, consumers, that is the primary driver. What was relatively new to our conversation and to our research findings is really around the addition of these other three categories as significant in the decision-making process for some consumers. So the addition of viruses and malware, and the presence of viruses and malware being a concern that has driven ad blocker behavior, is new to us, or to our understanding. Certainly, as I mentioned, kind of the identity conversation is another one that has risen in prominence. And then the usage of resources that ads, especially heavy ad loads, might incur, especially in places where it's a mobile driven economy and people are paying by the minute, or kind of tethered to their phone all day, and can't kind of countenance high battery usage. All those things I think are important and come into people's decision making process. I had mentioned earlier that in our initial research, kind of globally, people agreed, and that's true for the update of the research as well. These are some of the countries that we did the research in, and you can see kind of the top 4-5 reasons that consumers gave were pretty consistent across the board. Perfect, but pretty well aligned given all the differences in digital economies, overall economies, size, sophistication, that live across all those countries.
Hey Neal, I have a bit of insight to share here as
Yeah.
well. So Admiral, some of you on the call are aware of this, but we're constantly conducting research against Adblock visitors, because we are directly engaging. Our product directly engages with Adblock visitors. There is a path to responding to live surveys within our engagements, and we're seeing the same thing, essentially. The primary reason for downloading an ad blocker, is still blocking ads, obviously, but security and personal identity, or identity protection, is something that is becoming more and more prominent. We recently asked the question to our ad blocker research panel, and 50% did agree the number one reason was ads, but 32% said it was security and privacy reasons that they're using it. And just to round things off, 12% was about performance and page speed improvement.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. All right. So with all that said, we started out with a lot of negativity, and given what we do and that we were talking largely to ad blocker users, that's a reasonable place to start the conversation. But I think one of the things that we were very optimistic about coming out of the study was that it wasn't all negative. It wasn't all that ads are inherently bad or that consumers didn't want to see them. In fact, many were happy to see ads and actually viewed it as a feature of their digital journey. Um, and ad blocker users also kind of showed themselves to be very much consumers of ads, even if ads were reinserted in some way, or if they had allow listed a site. They were clicking on ads actually at a slightly higher, if not similar, if not slightly higher rate than non-ad blocker users, and leading to purchases. So I think again, this is not necessarily a population that is disinterested in hearing messages from marketers and supporting publishers. They say they understand the kind of the social contract, and they want to support the publishers that they go to and that they have relationships with, and that they understand that advertising makes the internet a better place. So there is a basis for, let's have a conversation about the how and the why, because it isn't just the what that is concerning
Yeah,
to
and this definitely corroborates with the data and the analysis that we pick up off of allow listed visitors. They more often than not happen to be the best visitors on a site in regards to loyalty, session depth, page views consumed. So the data that we're seeing on our end in regards to the value of the allow listed visitor absolutely lines up with what you guys are seeing in regards to these Adblock users just doing more.
Yep. Excellent. So somebody has come to the conclusion that they want to download an ad blocker. They've gotten there for a reason, and as much as we as publishers and as the digital advertising industry are not thrilled about that, also something that we have to respect, and that there is a bit of a blunt instrument problem going on here in my mind, which is to say, people very reasonably may have showed up on a site that had a crappy ad experience, or they may have heard a horror story from a friend about malware or a virus or something like that came, or they suspect came via ad load, or something. Something has gotten them to this place, and I think it is the conversations that we had with ad blocker users is it was probably not a terribly reasonable thing for us to think, hey, our appeal should be just get rid of the thing entirely, right? They are trying to protect themselves for something for a reason. So, device refresh certainly offers an opportunity to kind of relitigate that conversation, because in some cases, at least, they would have to make a proactive decision to re-download. Not as often as maybe we would like, because a lot of the browsers will carry that from instance to instance and device to device. But the notion of having a conversation and focusing on allow listing in our conversations was very had very high potential, and really seemed like the clear place to go, because they didn't want to remove it, but in cases where they had trust in the publisher, they certainly, again, we go back to, they are supportive of ads, they want to see some ads, and they want to support the publisher so the publisher continue to do their work. So what's the problem here? Why is this a problem? The problem is that generally ad blockers tend to be set it and forget it sort of situations in the mind of consumers. So whether a consumer has discovered ad blocking on their own, or had somebody come to their machine and install one for them, which was a common theme we heard, especially among older ad blocker users. This isn't something that they engage with on a regular basis. This isn't something where they're tuning settings and they're thinking about their ad blocker. It happens, and unless something goes wrong or there's something is inserted into their path, it isn't something they think about again. So the question becomes, what do we do about that? And certainly having engagements with consumers, publisher engagement with consumers, is one of the ways that we raise this to their attention. That hey, something's going on. We would like you to take action here. And so then the question becomes, how do we have that conversation? And in looking at it, we maybe Michael and I kind of disagreed on the parlance here a little bit, maybe. But in terms of having a conversation with a consumer, the consumer can either elect to allow list a specific page. I want to go to this page and see this article or this video or whatever it happens to be that is my immediate mission today. And that is an option in the ad blocker settings. Or I can allow list that domain permanently. And it is relatively easy because the consumer is on a mission to get them to allow list for that specific page at that specific moment. Certainly from a publisher standpoint, the goal should be how can we get onto the good guy list permanently, right? Because we want this consumer to come back. We don't want them to be frustrated by continually having to go back to their settings, but we want to show them ads, and we feel like we have established a good relationship. That should be the goal.
Yeah, but I think what we absolutely agree on is that communication, engagement, establishing your position in a clear, concise way is the key. Yep. Like you have to get in front of these guys.
Yep, absolutely. And so, we wanted to talk to consumers a little bit and understand how they evaluate those sorts of engagements and messaging. And this is kind of how they broke it out in their minds. What is being asked of me? What choices might I have? Is there anything? What is the basis that I should trust that this is a reasonable thing? And then how do I actually get back out of this conversation and get on to my digital journey? And so with those as the levers, if you will, that we can push, we wanted to understand how that evaluation happened amongst consumers. So it basically comes down to one initial decision. Do I know and trust this website right now or not? Is it familiar to me? Is it not? If it is somebody I know. So for Neal, if I was looking at one on ESPN, just as an example, I go to ESPN every day. I have a long-standing relationship with that property. Okay, that goes into my trusted bucket. If they ask me something, I am going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and unless it seems like a wholly unreasonable ask, I will think quickly, say yes, and move on to the next thing because I trust them. In cases where maybe I have gotten a link from a friend or a feed of mine has put something in my path that I am not familiar with, that's a different sort of analysis. That's a slow thinking. I actually have to think about, what do I know about this website? Does it seem like it's secure just from my first visual inspection? Could I get this content elsewhere, etc.? Those are the sorts of things that are going on in my mind if an unfamiliar website asks me the question. And this is really where I think we have an opportunity as the CBA and as an industry and in partnership with Admiral to help to create a proxy essentially for trust. So I'll talk a little bit about the Better Ads Experience seal in a moment here, but the notion that we can, as an industry, insert something into the path that adds on to what the publisher is already saying in an appeal and an engagement to try and help backstop that and say, oh, okay, well, it's bigger than just this publisher that maybe you're not familiar with. There is an industry backing to this, and there should be some reason that you should think about this publisher as a good actor and one that's worthy of being allowed listed. So with that, I'll kind of move into the seal here and talk a little bit about it. So we want to focus on consumers and really allow publishers to signal that commitment. They're part of a program, and frankly, I think just about everybody is already actually compliant with CBA standards. It's just not something that is expressed explicitly. So again, this is an effort in taking credit. We are doing this thing as an industry to help build trust with you, the consumer. There is a halo effect here. You can kind of see the bottom left. There's a number of pretty high level publishers, and then that are already part of this program. And then if you go back to all the companies that are part of making the CBA, there's a fair amount of reflected glory to be had in that this is an industry accepted program. Over time, there's a virtuous cycle here as well, meaning the more consumers see a seal like this, the more it will build trust. It'll be something that they're aware of. Like, oh, okay, well, I believed that the last time. A bunch of publications that I do trust are showing this seal. I get that this is something I should pay attention to. And finally, I'm not asking anybody. We are not asking anybody for any money for this. So this is a free program to publishers, and one that they can apply to at on the CBA's website. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and kind of let Michael take over and talk a little bit about how we have integrated the seal into the Admiral tool for anybody who is a member of both.
Okay, thank you, Neal. I really appreciate that. A lot of good information, a lot of good insight. I'm going to conclude my presentation with contact information. And again, if you guys have any questions for Neal in particular, you can certainly reach out to him. We'll have a little bit of time at the end of this webinar to field a couple of questions, but I'm going to hop right into how we've integrated the good work that the CBA has done, in particular the certification program, into our product. So as you guys know, Admiral is Adblock revenue recovery is one of the pillars of our platform, and how publishers work with Admiral. To hop right into it. So when Neal came to us with this, with the idea behind the certification, we immediately saw this as a great opportunity, because at the end of the day, what's happening with Admiral, our recommended and primary solution for dealing with Adblock revenue recovery is allow list based recovery. So if you guys are using our product or have seen our product in the wild, we are essentially engaging Adblock visitors and asking them on behalf of the publishers to allow list the site that they are on. And in doing so, I want the audience to keep in mind, it's not the heavy ask of disabling your blocker entirely. It's that when you're on a particular site and they're asking you to allow list, you are simply allowing ads to run as intended as a show of support, for a variety of reasons why anyone would allow list a publisher. And in doing so, what happens is you are obviously unlocking that visitor. Ad blockers not only affect your ad delivery, but also they affect your tech stack. The best case scenario is to get your audience or your ad block traffic to essentially allow list, and you should be giving them and communicating with them many good reasons why they should be doing so. And the Coalition for Better Ads came up with a great one with the certification, establishing that trust and communicating that if you allow list, this site has a standard of ad delivery that you should be okay with. So we worked with the coalition to run a beta test or a pilot program to determine if actively promoting the fact that a publisher site was Better Ad certified, would that increase allow listing among Adblock users, giving them a reason to essentially allow list. The methodology behind the pilot was to secure a sample of publishers to participate. Publishers included Advanced Local, Legacy, PGA Tour. We looked at the baseline. We focused on the conversion, or we established a baseline, and then we focused on conversion rates and recovery rates. And then we fielded two versions of the CBA creative that were tested on PGA Tour and Legacy.com. They were not seen on Advanced Local sites. The primary was an overt reference to the Better Ad certification in the copy, and And then the secondary was simply displaying the badge. So with that all set up, this is what consumers or Adblock visitors were looking at when they entered the site with a blocker on. They would see the allow list request from the publisher, and they would also see the Better Ads certified badge. Advanced local sites included a diverse mix of sites across various geos in the US. The A/B test behind the creative, this was an example of the primary, which was the overt messaging. So it directly referenced the Better Ad certification. And then the secondary message that we A/B tested was standard messaging, which retained essentially the publisher's communication to allow list or CTA to allow list, but with the Better Ad certified badge or the certification badge showing. And the top line results were just exciting and extraordinarily conclusive. I mean, we saw an increase in the conversion rate versus the baseline across the board for an average of a 16% increase in conversions with the CBA badge present. And the recovery rate versus the baseline increased on average of 28% across all the sites within the pilot program. So when we looked at the messaging differences, we saw that for the PGA Tour, at least, there was a positive increase above the baseline and above the just the generic or standard messaging. So really pointing out the fact that the site was Better Ads certified and you would essentially allow list yourself into a Better Ads experience drove even a higher recovery and conversion rate. For legacy.com, we realized that the messaging does matter. People are actually reading the engagements. We saw a bit of a dip in regards to conversion and base recovery rates versus the baseline. However, we attributed that to the messaging. If you go to the legacy.com and if you look at the creative itself, it's a very emotionally based, the message is very rooted in an emotional overture to the customer to allow lists, and that was removed when we were focusing more on the Better Ad certification. So messaging absolutely does matter in regards to how you're communicating and what you're communicating. So the conclusions of the program were basically any mention of the CBA or Better Ad certification delivered double-digit increases in conversion rates and recovery rates. Recovery rates, which are the percent of block page views that are recovered based on conversion across our sites, depending on journey configurations, average about 15 to 20% if you use a steady soft configuration, 20 to 30% for smart AI, 50% plus for gated. And these are all terms that any of our customers that are on the webinar currently understand. But if you have any questions about this, please feel free to follow up. But these are essentially the recovery rates that we see for various configurations that are running out of the box. The secondary badge creative performed conclusively better than the primary creative on Legacy, but delivered similar results between two creatives on PGA Tour. And then the results were so positive that Admiral decided to integrate the option to insert the CBA badge into the engagements for all Better Ad certified sites. So this new feature can be found within the Engage Wizard under the message configuration section. Publishers that are Admiral customers and already Better Ad certified can benefit from this immediately. Publishers that are Admiral customers but are not certified, you should seriously consider getting certified. As Neal mentioned, you guys are probably already adhering to the Better Ad standard, so certification should be a breeze for you. Publishers that are Better Ad certified but not yet using Admiral for Adblock recovery can immediately benefit by enabling full stack recovery. And then publishers that are neither using Admiral or Better Ad certified, you should address your Adblock traffic. As Neal mentioned in his research, this is a valuable cohort of visitors to unlock. And by simply leveraging Admiral to enable the allow list messaging and then getting yourself Better Ad certified, that is a clear path to generating revenue and unlocking these visitors. So if you are Better Ad certified and you are an Admiral customer, all you have to do is log into your Admiral dashboard, and you will see a top hat alert that will automatically display once you log into your account. That is going to take you to the wizard where you can add the badge to your engagement. So this is an example of one of our sites that is Better Ad certified. And if you go into the engaged wizard, what you will see is a toggle for Better Ad certification. You would simply switch that toggle live, and then you would make the decision to, you can either have a light background or a dark background, but this will automatically display and position itself within the engagement. If you have any questions about enabling this, we will be reaching out. If you are a Better Ads certified site and an Admiral customer, we will reach out to you to get this enabled. And again, if you are a Admiral customer and you're not Better Ads certified, we will be reaching out to you to help you get put you on the path towards Better Ads certification, because again, it is a win-win for everybody.
Yep. To that end, I put a link in the chat to where you can go to apply for the program.
Okay, great. Thank you, Neal. But if you want to contact Neal and talk to him about the Better Ad standard or Better Ad certification specifically, you can email him at neal@betterads.org. If you have any questions for myself, you can reach me at michael@getadmiral.com. Everybody who's a customer is well aware of our customer love team. You can reach out to your account manager directly, or you can just email customerlove@getadmiral.com. And for more information about the Better Ads Coalition, the standards, certification, definitely check out betterads.org. Okay, so that seems to leave about 5 minutes for any questions. So let me check into, let me stop my share. I can actually leave this up here. So we've got one question. It seems a lot of publishers probably unknowingly run ads for ad blockers, usually in Taboola or Outbrain. How much does Admiral or the CBA counsel publishers to be aware of this?
I can speak for the CBA, and that we tend to focus on ad experiences in our research and in our standards. We don't spend time on creative because we're a global organization, and don't have the wherewithal to focus on what is appropriate market by market, create piece of creative by piece of creative. Nor would I want to have that judgment thrust upon me as to say what is appropriate or inappropriate inside the kind of the vessel of an ad experience that's fairly standard. So we don't have anything to say about that. Certainly, I am not thrilled with the concept of it, but like anything else, I guess they have the right to advertise, even if that's kind of counterproductive for all of us.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good, interesting observation. And speaking on behalf of Admiral, you know, the decision to run an ad blocker is a customer decision, and just like it's an opt-in, we always preface that our solution, which is full stack recovery or allow list-based recovery, is really the only opt-in solution out there. Right? It's directly asking the customer to take action, to take a very specific action, and then you're driving a consent-driven, permission-based model to recover that advertising. So just like Neal is saying, just like the program or the certification alludes to, you need to convince you need to convince visitors, you need to convince your users and your traffic, the people that come to your site, that there is a better alternative. Right. So if they make the conscious decision to use an ad blocker, you have to convince them as to why it's okay to support the site that you trust to create the allow listed experience, or to adopt the allow listed experience as a sign of support. So it's important to respect the visitor, absolutely respect the visitor, their choices. And if the choices are not aligned to what you would like, what would be ideal, you're going to have to convince them in a meaningful way to convert. Okay. So that just puts us on time. Anything else, Neal? Any closing statements?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for hosting me today and for all the partnership that got us to where we are, and thank everybody who showed up to listen. And certainly, as Michael invited you, if you have any questions or are interested in signing up for the program, would love to hear from you.
Excellent. Neal, thank you so much. Always appreciate your working with you. And on behalf of Admiral, thank you everybody for attending. And thank you, Neal. And if you guys have any questions, there will be follow up. We will be sharing a recording of this webinar for all attendees. And for those that did not attend, we will be reaching out to them as well.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Neal. Thank you, everybody.